Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Hello, everyone. Tracy here. Welcome back to another episode. I am so thankful to have you joining me for another fantastic conversation. But before we dive right in, a quick word from this week's sponsor.
The season's just about to get underway. What have you been up to?
Not sitting around. Off-season's busy. Got a couple rookies to train up, some new systems to learn. But we'll be ready.
And what canola are you growing this year?
We chose BY7204LL, Brett Young's new Liberty Link canola hybrid. Our neighbor grew 7204 last year, said it's high yielding, it's got good standability, pod shatter tolerance, and strong defense against club root. It's a game changer.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. We have an amazing returning guest. We have John Sachse returning again. How are you, John?
I am doing well today, Tracy. I'm so honored and blessed that you would have me come on again as I was prepping for this, actually, and we didn't discuss before we started the podcast, but we recorded our first episode together. If we would be recording this tomorrow on September 27th, it would be a year to the day. So we are just shy by a day of when we last recorded. So honored to be back on your show, Tracy.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. I am so happy to have you back. I love the material and the wisdom you share. Like, this stuff is my jam. So I'm super, you know that last time I
Yep,
was just so
absolutely.
excited to chat with you. So welcome back and let's do this. I know you have some good stuff to share with our audience. If you guys missed the first episode, John is a performance mindset coach with his company Ranch Fit. And today we're going to talk about goal setting as it relates to building resiliency in our lives. So, John, before we dive in, can you share a little bit more about who you are, your background, your work, and your company?
Absolutely. So Tracy, first and foremost, I am a husband to my wife Kinsley. I've got two little boys that help us out on the farm and ranch. Emerson is 6 and Elliot is 3. I had the privilege this morning of watching Elliot for about 5 or 6 hours while my wife and other son were off for a while, and it was perfect timing because I had a long list of things to do today, but just the opportunity that I had to spend time with my son, especially as a husband and a father. I don't do that enough. And I just kind of tried to turn my mind off of everything else that I could have been doing and just spent time being in the present with him. And so I was blessed this morning to have that opportunity. I serve as, like you said, Tracy, a resiliency and mindset coach on my own company, Ranch Fit. I serve also kind of a unique perspective that I have is, in addition to ranching with my family, fourth generation rancher in Kansas down here in the United States. I serve in the military, and here in the U.S. we have a Army National Guard, so I serve as an officer, an executive officer at my company level, and ironically teach resiliency to my soldiers. So it's a perfect blend of things that I experience in the real world with farming and ranching, but then I can implement the experiences, the things that I go through on a daily basis. I can share that with my soldiers who are also going through certain things on their own. But I've got a lot of irons in my fire, but I don't tell you that to impress anybody with look at everything that John has going on, but rather, first and foremost, I'm a follower of Christ. I have a firm foundation, a Christian foundation that leads me every day, and I wake up every day with sort of a posture and a service towards serving and adding value to those around me each and every day. That's my goal. If I can serve one person every day, I have reached my goal for the day. And so all of those things, none of those things define me, whether I'm husband, father, rancher. They're just the tools and the levers in which I can pull each and every day to serve and add value to those around me. And it keeps me kind of clear and focused on the task at hand, because everything I do task wise is to serve a greater and a higher purpose.
I love it. That was so beautifully said. I just love that, like just in service. And me too. Sometimes with this show, right? Helping farmers with their mental health, with transition planning, all of this stuff. And sometimes when you get busy, and actually this will lead right into our conversation, you get busy, you get tired, you get overworked. You sometimes lose the connection with the why. I say I lose my pizzazz, my mojo, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring it back in and always be thinking of that one person. If I can serve that one person in the audience and help make their day better, brighter, safer, more successful, I love that you stated that. So thank you. Okay, so we're both huge on mindset. And of course, you're big into fitness, so am I, nutrition. And I think we would both think that those three things are foundational to have the best physical health and mental health. And sometimes I think farmers are so busy, so stressed out, so physical. And with all those things, they can forget to focus on fitness because they said, like my husband, he'll be like, well, I'm out there all day. I'm working, I'm lifting pails, I'm doing my stuff. I don't need to exercise. You get so busy, you don't have time to focus and nourish this. Would you like to talk about your thoughts and why you think it is so important for every man, every woman, every farmer, every soldier to focus on mental and physical health for stress, all of that stuff?
Yeah, it is so important, and it's such a myth that farmers and ranchers, and not just farmers and ranchers, but growing up in that community, and you see it too because you've already said it, but it's like hey, we're already, maybe stressed, or we're already doing physical activities, and those are certainly good, because the main thing is uh, when we're stationary, or when we're sitting in one spot all day, depression can happen, stress, anxiety are more likely to creep into our lives. And so, at the end of the day, as long as you're moving, that is important. But sometimes doing more than just, hey, I'm turning wrenches in the shop and stuff, is what's needed to get to that next level. I think oftentimes producers just don't, or farmers and ranchers don't see the time that they could build into their days. It doesn't have to be anything special. So and I've shared this before with you, Tracy, but I'm an avid runner. I've done marathons, and you know I will go prioritize if I'm in a training session, training for whatever half or full marathon. I am adamant about getting that run done. Part of that is I'm a type A personality, and I get weird satisfaction from just crossing something off my list, to-do list. But so some of that to a degree is this. But if I have a long day of mowing hay or baling or rotary mowing pastures, we do that here in Kansas, here in eastern Kansas, where we get a lot of rain in the summer. I will go prioritize and run, you know, leave the tractor in the pasture and go run to the tractor, even if it's just a mile away, or walk. And it's like, I think producers think it has to be some complicated thing, but it doesn't. Just don't take the easy way out. Somebody could take you via truck or ranger or whatever to go to that tractor, but get a walk in. If it's a mile and a half, that's a mile and a half walk, and you did two things at once. You got to the vehicle, the tractor or combine, and you got some physical exercise in. But don't give yourself an excuse to not do it. We have every I'm a firm believer that we have everything inside of it. Have the if our eyes are open to it, we have the resources available to us each and every day. We just have to kind of be creative with how we live our days, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I found I didn't really, I used to be super active with sports. And then you kind of go out of that because you go to school and you get busy. And then I started exercising again. I did a exercise challenge. And then since then, I've been working out consistently. And I actually just messed it up, changed it up, and it ended up causing me to stop. And I
Mhm.
realized you don't know the benefits of it until you do it consistently and stop mentally and physically, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I get so much more what I call mental gains than physical gains. Yes, if
Totally.
you are lifting weights or walking or running of any distance, you're obviously going to, over the course of a long period of time, you're going to see physical gains. But the mental gains for me far outweigh anything that I physically gain from that experience.
I did really quick here. I did the 75 hard challenge twice. And I did it once during like the dead of winter. And one time I was
Mm,
going through a snowbank and there was nothing. I didn't care about the physical at that time. It was all mental. It was like not a blizzard because that wouldn't have been safe, but it was pretty darn bad.
yep.
And all of that was mental. It's just like, I can do this, the clarity, what you bring and energy, like unbelievable. Anyways, it's like I'm selling exercise here.
We might as well, Tracy. We might as well.
We may as well. It is so important. Okay, so let's chat about resiliency. I would like for you to define that and tell me more because I think there's a few words that are used a lot and we might not necessarily understand what that means. I know I'm going, okay, what exactly is resiliency?
Yeah, well, it's an awesome question to ask because I think there are different versions of the term and all are probably correct, but resiliency, as I think about it, I utilize this analogy when I visit with my soldiers at my unit specifically, and then if I'm working with coaching clients, whether it's one-to-one or in a group. But as I think about resiliency, or kind of through the lens that I see it, resiliency to me is utilizing this analogy. So say you go up on top of your house and you have an egg and a tennis ball. So the egg and the tennis ball both can represent you, me, our neighbor, whoever it is, a family member, that's us. And then the ground, however high up you are, the ground, whether it's concrete, gravel, cement, whatever it might be, brick, that is, a metaphor for an obstacle, a challenge, a roadblock, some kind of hurdle that we're facing in life. And we all have stresses in our life.
Mhm.
So if you were to take that tennis ball and egg up to the top of the house and you drop that egg to start with, what would happen? It's going to shatter all over the place. That egg hit the ground, hit that obstacle, that hard ground, that hard surface, that hurdle, and it shattered. That
Mm.
egg wasn't resilient. That egg wasn't always working on itself. It wasn't in um, didn't have a personal growth type of mindset. Funny quick side story to that. I did this experiment with soldiers at my National Guard unit. I took an egg and a tennis ball, and then I took my boys had this little plastic blue pool, and I thought it was big enough to catch the egg, but turns out the egg, I had a soldier on a chair and the egg splattered and it like hit the first 10 soldiers in the first row. And so
Oh,
note to self, if you ever do this, do it outside because it is definitely messy.
oh,
But that egg is not resilient. So what happens with the tennis ball? Again, the tennis ball is representative of us. It's hitting that same ground, that same obstacle, that same roadblock that the egg hit, but it bounces back as we would expect it. But I would take it one step further, Tracy, and this is where
yeah.
when I really think about resiliency, this is it for me. If you were to zoom in, if you were to take a video of that tennis ball hitting the ground and actually zoom in on that video, at the point of impact, that tennis ball is actually reforming remorphing itself, changing its shape to better accept that challenge, that obstacle, that roadblock, that hard surface. And to me, that's resiliency, not only where we can just come back and face adversity, hit it head on, and bounce back from that. That's
Yeah.
great. But on the other side of that challenge, that obstacle, that roadblock, we're reforming, remolding, we're better versions of ourselves on the other side of that obstacle. So that tennis ball actually looks forward to hitting that ground, that hard surface, because that's how it performs at its best, because it's a different version of itself on the other side of that hit. And that's so important with just how we live our lives. If you go through life not working on your mindset, our minds are very malleable. They can change, over the course of time if we're doing certain things to help improve our mindset. Our minds, our brains will actually, it's a muscle, but they will change over the course of time. And so I
Interesting.
guess I would challenge my viewers to not just hit that obstacle and try to bounce back, from adversity. That's great. But how can you be the better version of yourself on the other side of that roadblock? Because I'm a firm believer, there is a whole other world on the other side of, things we're fearful of, the challenges and the roadblocks. That's where we become the best versions of ourselves.
Coach John, I think I have you on this show just for personal coaching. Forget about everybody watching. I need this. Can I share something with you? And
Yeah,
it's slightly personal, and I share personal stuff here. The way I'm thinking of it, but it's really clicking for me, is at the end of a really hard day or week or month, but if you're resilient, you kind of just, okay, we get up, we conquer the world, we do it again, right? Where other times you're like, oh, but here's what I want to ask you. And I've observed this, and I hope I'm on point with my comment. When you're young, you're fresh, you're eager, right? You start farming, you're like just full of mojo. And then years happen, and then markets crash, and then you have bad years. And then it just seems that maybe there's, would you call it a little bit of baggage? Like where you might not feel as resilient. Is this what we're talking about? Where practices and goals can get you back up again, right? Because I often wonder how many farmers just get plain stinking tired of all the dramatic highs and lows and just lose their resiliency. That's what I'm getting at.
absolutely.
Does that
Yeah,
make
and
sense?
yeah, and I think oftentimes the way in which you wake up and the way that you face your days, if you are a firm believer and acknowledge that life happens for us and
Mm,
not to us,
yeah.
I'd say that again, life happens for us and not to us. And I didn't come up with that quote, but I've heard it before, and I think of it almost every day, because I work on my mindset daily, and I still am going through certain stresses and whatnot. But if you can wake up and reframe your day with the things that are going on around me, they are happening for me. I'm supposed to go through this stress because on the other side of this, I'm going to be able to serve somebody else at a higher level than before. The last 6 months, Tracy, with our ranching operation, my wife and I thought we had, some bulls sold to somebody, and the individual backed out. We also had a instance where we thought we had quite a bit of hay sold to an individual here in Kansas, and that fell through. And just setbacks like that, I'm better, I'm wiser because I went through that, and I am such a firm believer, and I think of it daily, that life happens for us and not to us. And if you just wake up with that kind of frame and point of reference, the lens in which you see things, it just changes your days, I think.
I love that. Okay, I get it. I get it. So hard stuff happens, and I this is the perfect audience, because again, just like you said, we're often hit with so many things, and just like you said, okay, you figure out who to sell the bulls to, and then you're like, okay, we're going to make money from the hay, and then another knock comes, right? It knocks and knocks. I mean, of course there's great stuff, but we know life happens. Farming's fun and challenging. What are ways to become more resilient? Because I think we need that as business owners, farmers, right?
Yep, absolutely. So I would offer up there is hundreds, if not probably thousands of different tools and stuff that you can utilize, ways that you can implement resiliency into your lives. But I would offer three, and later on we can do more if time permits. But there's three that have been really important and impactful in the ways that I operate and do business. So the first would be setting goals and really being really clear on your why. Tracy, you talked about that at the beginning. I think in one of the first couple sentences you said, you talked about your why. I
Yeah.
think oftentimes people wake up each and every day not having a clear picture or vision of what they want in life. They're just kind of bouncing around, bumping around in life, just going through the motions, not knowing what it is that they're, what's the purpose that they're fulfilling, what's their why. And so oftentimes when I work with a new coaching client, or if I'm visiting with a soldier that is going through some challenges and stuff, one of the first things that we talk about is identifying your why, because everything ties into your why. Simon Sinek talked about it a lot. He kind of made the phrase, popular as we know it today, but everything ties into your why. And so it's kind of the end state, and then you can begin to work backwards from there, especially as we think about goal setting and whatnot. So being clear, having clarity and focus around your goals and your why is one of the most important kind of foundational pieces as we think about resiliency. Number two for me has been facing your fears. So there's a lot of research that suggests that our minds don't know the difference between what we have actually experienced and actually done, and those things that we've just repetitively thought of over and over. Our mind has some 70 to 80,000 thoughts every day, and most of them, I don't remember the percentage, but most of those 70 or 80,000 thoughts are just repetitive. And
Yeah.
so when you can face your fears and acknowledge, hey, the fears that I have oftentimes are just made up in our head, and they're also probably a lot worse in our head than what they will actually be if you did the thing. And so the confidence that you gain from doing the things that you're fearful of, that confidence flows into all areas of your life. As I think about this, my mind goes back to officer candidate school for in the US Army, or for the Guard. And there was a day, I am not a huge fan of at all of heights. And we had the obstacle kind of team building obstacle course day, and the day was really fun. And then we got to this one course that you had to climb this telephone pole. I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
how tall it was, 20 or 30 feet. So not a ginormous amount of feet, but for somebody that doesn't like heights and something that wiggles as you move up the thing, I was so fearful and dreadful of that. And there was these little metal pegs in it that you had to climb to the top and then get to the top and stand up on this probably 2 foot by 2 foot platform, and then jump up and out to reach this metal bar and try to hang on to the bar. And I was probably about halfway through, in line. I wasn't at the tail end of the group, and I wasn't at the front end, and nobody was getting the bar. And I thought, man, I am so scared right now. I don't even know. I couldn't think right. And
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what? Hopefully I did it. I climbed it. It was to a degree dreadful, but it was not as bad as my mind, the previous 5 to 10 minutes before I did it. I was thinking of all kind of the worst case scenarios in a very much a negative thought loop. And, but you know what? I did it, and I actually got the bar, and the confidence that I gained from having done that flowed into the rest of my day. And then I have remembered doing something when things get tough for me on the ranch or in coaching or just in life, being a husband and father. I remember back to, hey, you did something that you were fearful of. That confidence is a game changer, as it can go into all areas of your life. And then lastly, Tracy, the third tool that I've utilized is the practice of serving and adding value to others. You could also tie thankful or gratefulness into this, but our minds cannot be stressed or worried while at the same time as being, thankful or grateful or serving somebody. My wife had the opportunity to go to Haiti on a mission trip right a couple months before we met 10 years ago. And she still remembers it vividly, just the people that she saw, the kids that she interacted with, the drinking conditions, the living conditions were some of the worst you could probably ever imagine. But she said and she still remembers it vividly, those were some of the happiest people that I saw. And that opportunity to serve in that capacity was a game changer for her. And so it doesn't take doing that kind of thing. You can go to a soup kitchen or serve in your church, but our minds cannot be serving and adding value to others and be stressed at the same moment. It's not physically possible. Um, and it doesn't even have to be as big as going to a soup kitchen, Tracy. It can be going at the grocery store, smiling and acknowledging somebody. We don't know what anybody is going through
Hmm.
each and every day, especially just random strangers that we see. They could be in the darkest of times, they could be really just not really with it. And them feeling seen or heard from you could be all the difference between, their day being a good one or a bad one. And so just acknowledging and seeing somebody with a smile is an act of service. And I don't know anybody that has served at any of those different levels and been stressed and worried and anxious at the same time. So there is immense power in being thankful and grateful. And that's another tool, but also serving and adding value to others, because at the same moment, we can't be in a state of stress or anxiety.
Oh, I love that. I need that tattooed on my arm or something. I've actually thought of that, like maybe a bracelet. I don't want a tattoo
Yeah,
because
there
I'd
you
want to
go.
change it right away. But like gratitude, right? Um, I've noticed that too, where you're often we're busy, we're stressed, we're worried, we have a lot on our minds, right?
Yep.
Everybody in this world, we have a lot of chaos coming at us with everything, and different times where I all of a sudden get out of my own way, like get out of your own head. And then, like you say, do something nice for somebody. And then that's well received. Like it's just magical. It's not even just, it's so beautiful for them, like that moment. And then after you're like just high on life. And it's just a little gesture and it gets you out of your own little world
So
up here,
I
right?
have I have another quick story that I want to share in regards to that. So a couple years ago, I was running I think it was a 5K or a 10K race. I don't remember which it was, but there was a point in the race. So I was in really good shape at the time. I'm going through some injury recovery right now, but at the time that I was running, I was in really good condition, and I am very reserved and humble when it comes to being outwardly, when it comes to being competitive, but internally I am just as competitive as the next person. And there was this guy, I was towards the front of the pack, and there was this guy I just could not quite run down. He was running about the same pace, and he actually had me going a little bit faster pace than I wanted to go, and I just couldn't run him down. And I was so stressed while I was running, and I'm somebody that tries to not compare myself with anybody else, but in the moment I got caught up and I was just obsessing. I was losing focus of my breathing and just my pace because I was focused on him. And there was this moment in the race where you had to turn around, and basically everybody towards the front end, you would pass on this small sidewalk, you would pass everybody that was behind you. And I thought, you know what, I need to just stop focusing on this guy. I saw the struggle, I saw the worry, the anxiety, the stress, the exhaustion on everybody else behind us. And I thought, man, these people are struggling. And I was too. I'm not saying I wasn't, but I thought, how about I get out of my own head and smile and offer encouragement and, hey, we're almost there, or some kind of
Nice.
piece of encouragement to everybody that I passed. And when I did that, it got my mind off of the guy that I was trying to run down. It got myself I lost my train of thought with how exhausted I even was at that point, and I
Right.
was just focused on serving them in that small way of a smile or, hey, nice job, keep going, almost there. And at the very end, I actually ended up passing the guy that I was running down. He ran out of steam, and I was at a different pace because I stopped thinking of all these external things with him, and I started focusing on others, and I ended up doing really well. And so
Nice.
service can be all different forms, Tracy, and that just acknowledging somebody is hugely impactful, I think.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great story. I always wish I could just be like that 100% of the time. I guess I wouldn't be as special, but just to be that thoughtful and kind and outwardly encouraging of people at all times, I wish I could be that way. That'll be my life goal. Hey, speaking of
There you
goals,
go.
there we go. I didn't even plan that. So, okay, you covered your three. Do you want to talk about goal setting in connection to resiliency? Do you want to go there right now?
Yep, we can, but let me real quick. I
Oh,
I
yeah,
want to
please.
touch on sources of motivation because I think we can plan out goals, and that's great, but you have to be able to tap into certain sources of motivation in order to, I think, achieve those goals. And so, real
Okay.
quick, before we talk about goal setting, there's two different, and I teach this to my soldiers as well, but there's two different sources of motivation. There's extrinsic or external sources of motivation than internal or intrinsic sources of motivation. Those, how I think about this is the extrinsic or external's an easier word, so I'll go with that, Tracy.
Okay.
Those external sources of motivation, or when you think about reward punishment. So I might tell my boys, hey, you're not going out to play outside right after nap if you didn't pick up your toys in your room. That kind of scenario or example is reward and punishment. They know that's going to get them to act in the short term, so it's very effective. Those external sources of motivation are really good effective tools in the short term, but not necessarily long term. And most importantly, they are things that others are dictating to us. We're not dictating that thing. So the reward punishment was coming from me to them. So, and I think you need both external and internal sources of motivation, but they both kind of act just a little bit differently. So those internal sources of motivation are those things that they tap into your why, they tap into your core values, your core beliefs. So we've talked about it before, but I am firm in believing that when I work out, when I prioritize fitness, when I run, those days I'm a better husband, father, rancher, whatever it might be. Nobody is dictating to me to go run. I just know at a deep level, the mental and the physical gains that I get from that are making me the best version of myself. And so they are tapping in, those internal sources of motivation are tapping into us and our why at a deep level. And they get us to move and act really well over a course of a long period of time. So I think you need internal and external, but those, when we can tie our goals into the internal or intrinsic sources of motivation, I think it allows us on the stressful days, the things that we don't want to do on certain days, it helps move us beyond that because we're tapping into that deeper meaning and reason of why we're doing something.
You want to hear a funny little goal activity I do? I just started it in the last, I'd say about 2 years. It is game changing. I gamify my work because I mean, I've been a business owner for 17 years. So, a bit of same with the farmer, it's a bit of that resiliency, right? You come to another year, it's like, okay, don't get me wrong. I'm so blessed with my business and love what I do, but you got to push, right? One thing I started to do if I have projects, I tie it to a reward. I literally treat myself like a kid and give myself a gift. So if there's something on
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, it's so funny. I print it off. And if I'm working on this thing and I don't want to do this thing, but obviously I have to do it, I print off the Amazon page. I put it on the floor right beside where I work. And then I say, if I get this done, I get this prize. And it worked
I love
amazing.
it.
It's totally
I love
like a
it.
kid with a gold star, but it's just changed my life. It's
Yeah,
amazing. I'm a
I,
goal-oriented person, so it
I
works.
love it. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And so as we talk about goals, Tracy, I want to go over three, and this is based upon work from John Acuff. He has a book called All It Takes Is a Goal. Awesome read if you or the viewers that are listening to this are looking for a great read. It is well worth your time. But again, John Acuff, All It Takes Is a Goal. But he defines there being three different goals. So there's your small goals, there's your medium length goals, and then instead of long-term goals, he calls them guaranteed goals. And I'll go over that here in a minute. But our small goals are things that when you tell somebody what that goal is, it almost doesn't even seem like a goal because it's so small and easy. They're really short goals. They could be a few hours, 24 hours, all the way up to a couple days or a week. They're not going to take very much time for you to do. It's cheap or free as well. There's no expenses tied to it. And so what this looks like for me is I'm not sure how this probably connects well with your viewers, Tracy, but I cannot stand working on taxes. I
Mm.
just hate it. And so my wife and we've got a coaching business. She does some coaching. My National Guard, the ranch, we have a lot of irons in our fire, and so I can't stand working on taxes. And we do have a tax accountant that helps us, but a easy goal every year that I plan on and prioritize is just getting the proper documents from our tax accountant. And there's that kind of like small booklet that's a survey of, hey, did you withdraw from retirement? Did you, do X, Y, and Z? Did you have another child? That kind of thing. And just having that small packet filled out with our both of our signatures on there is a small goal for me because it gets the ball rolling. The point with the small goals is they are easy wins that you can stack upon each other. And so, similar to a snowball, it's the snowball effect. Once you start stacking a lot of easy wins together, they will all feed into your middle length goals. The middle length goals are a couple months, 1 to 3 months in a period of time. So it's got to be longer than a couple weeks, but it's not, years of a goal. So kind of that middle range goal. There's a lot of flexibility and adaptability built in. Things happen, life happens in a couple of months' time. And so you've got to be adaptable and flexible with these goals. But again, the small goals feed into these middle length goals. And then once you start knocking, you create some middle length goal wins, those build upon themselves and they flow into your longer term guaranteed goals. Now, there is almost nothing in life that you can guarantee. So when you first hear guaranteed goals, you're like, well, you can't really guarantee anything in life. But what is guaranteed is that if you have, it's not a guarantee that I have a longer term goal of running in the Boston Marathon someday. Uh, you know, individuals, whatever that huge, hairy, audacious goal is that you have that seems almost impossible, it's not guaranteed that you will ever accomplish that thing. But what is guaranteed is that if you have the right small goals in place that feed into your middle length goals and those feed into your guaranteed goals, it's not guaranteed that you'll reach that goal, but what is guaranteed is that you are on a trajectory of being the best version of yourself. So to me, my large guaranteed goal of running the Boston Marathon someday, it's not, I would obviously like to actually have that happen, but at the end of the day, that goal, it's not really about that goal. On paper, that's what it says, Boston Marathon. But what's more about that is that I have the right steps in place. I am, my training plan with the easy and the middle length goals, they are allowing me to be a better runner and a better version of myself. So it's not even really about running in the Boston Marathon, but it's about being the best version of myself. That's just the tool in which I use to do that, if you will. So what is guaranteed is that you are on a trajectory of being the best version of yourself. And those guaranteed longer term goals are 1, 3, 5, 10 years in length. They're very specific. They're very measurable. That is crucial here, that they have to be tangible, specific, measurable. I had the goal of running in the 2025 Boston Marathon. I had some injury that has prevented that opportunity from happening, but getting a very specific date written on the calendar of doing X, Y, and Z, it's got to be specific, and then you can begin to work back. And so I love that it's not guaranteed that you'll actually do the thing, but it's guaranteed that you will be on a whole different trajectory. Had if you wouldn't have had those goals in place, you'd be on a different path than, if you were doing the thing.
Wow. I think you planned this episode just for me. I need this.
I planned it for myself too, Tracy.
Yeah, okay. We'll replay it again a few times. Again, I'll share something here because ever since I have been young, I have been goal oriented, go, 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 building my company. But something around the pandemic happened. I mean, that changed. Couldn't travel. A lot of things were going on there. My company changed a little bit. Ever since, and I'm getting my footing again, things are going well. I'm still very blessed. But internally, I can't connect. I can't turn it fully on. And it's because I'm missing that big goal. That's what I'm realizing. I like the small, I'm just sticking in the small, the day to day, and even the medium, getting better, but I don't have that big thing. And I know now that you're saying this, that's what I'm missing, because I've always had that big North Star goal, and that's where I can go.
And not just you, Tracy. I mean, most of the listeners, myself even, how often do we just go through life every day, going through the grind? And when especially in production agriculture, you get in a rut of maybe you lost some calves in a storm, and then the markets weren't great, and you start having all these negative things. It can just really hit you. And so it's so important to have resiliency in your life, and just to see the bigger picture. I think if you're not you specifically, but if we're focused on the longer term goal and the purpose, all of these things in the short term, whether it stinks to not have not have the income that you wanted from the crops or the cattle or whatever, but in the grand scheme of things, that is a small blip. If we live a life of 85 years, yeah, you're going to remember that small thing from 30 years ago when you didn't sell the several bulls, at the price that you wanted. You might remember that, but there's such a bigger vision and purpose here in life that I think if we can always constantly like pull ourselves out of the weeds, if you will. I think we're all just in the mundane rut of the day-to-day activities, but we've got to prioritize time to get out of the weeds and the jungle that we're in, because you can't see all that far ahead if you're in the thick of the jungle. So occasionally you've got to pull yourself out, whether it's monthly or quarterly or whatever it is, pull yourself out and get a bigger 10,000 foot view of where is the direction in which you're headed, because you can't see that in the stress, the mundane rut of each and every day.
Well, I am happy to say in the pandemic, I was stuck in the weeds. Now I'm sitting in the tractor so I can see above the weeds, but I don't quite know where I'm going. You like my analogy?
Yeah, there you
I
go.
love how you said that, the big goal. Yes. Okay. Thank you for listening to my problems, Coach John. I appreciate it. You have a framework for goal setting. Do you want to go there?
Yeah, let's do it. So 7-step goal setting process. The first would be defining your goal. And this is really, I first learned about this when I was going through officer candidate school. The military is huge on goals in general, but as you, as an officer, as you're planning a mission, and I know not everybody, all the viewers would connect with this if you're not in the military, but when the officers plan the mission, the enlisted soldiers uh, carry out that mission, and every country's military would operate very similar to that. And so as an officer, as you're planning a mission, you always want to know the end goal, or what's the end state in mind. So you've got to have vision, clarity, a picture of define the goal. What is it that you're chasing after, and have vision around that. And another episode we can talk about visualization, but paint a very clear, as specific picture as you can about what it is that you're running towards, that end goal, that end state.
Mm.
Step two would be knowing where you are right now. It's hard to get to that point B, whatever the point B is on the map that you're going to. It's hard to know how to get there when you don't know where point A is. So clearly define, hey, this is right where I'm at. Step three, decide what you need to develop. There's always new skills, new tools, new knowledge or wisdom that is needed to get us. I think the current, and this is why I get frustrated with people that are just complacent in life to a degree. You can't be the best version of yourself and run down those goals and dreams in your current state. We have to always be improving just a little bit each and every day, each and every week, month, year. And so what are those skills, those tools needed to help get you there to accomplish the goal? And then step four would be make a steady plan for improvement. There is immense power in just being a little, this sounds, I know a lot of people have talked about just be a little bit better tomorrow than you are today, but there is so much power if you really stop and think about that. Because if you are just 1% better a year from now in your fitness, in your mindset, in your finances, in your business, whatever it is that we're talking about, if you're just 1% better, and you can compound that improvement over the course of 5, 10, 20 years. As I think about this, and not to keep going back to military, but the lessons you learn in the military are powerful. When you're doing land navigation and you're at point A and you've got your point plotted on a map, and point B is, wherever, if you are off, you point your plots, you shoot what's called azimuth with a compass, and if you are off by 1%, if you're only going, say, 30 yards from here, it's not going to make that much different in the short term, because you can see 30 yards, you can just walk to your point. But over 5,000 meters or something, or 10 miles, if you're shooting that 1%, it compounds, and you are way the heck off of your course over 10,000 meters on that 1%. And so, if tying that back to what we're talking about, if you can just be 1% better, that will compound over the long period of time. And so make a steady plan for improvement is step four. Step five, pursue regular action. And this has hit me hard, because I am a type A perfectionist individual with a lot of things, not every single area of my life, but in a lot of them. And I feel like everything has to be perfect for me to actually act on something. So when I started my coaching business, before I took on my first one-to-one coaching client, I wanted the entire program to be perfect. I had been working on it for a while, or just kind of in the thought process of how I wanted things to go. And I thought it had to be all put together. And my wife stopped me one day and said, just take messy action, is what she said. So what
Smart.
that means to me is not, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just start where you're at, just get going. And so when I started with my first coaching client, and I'll probably never tell him this, but I had an 8-week coaching program, and I think internally, I only had the first 2 weeks of the program figured out. When he was signing the contract and we started coaching on week one, I didn't have the entire 8 weeks figured out. I thought I needed to, but my wife told me to take messy action. And it actually was a benefit to me because there was things that I initially thought he would probably need, in week 5, 6, 7. But as I was flexible with the program, as I was building it, there was things that were coming up in the first couple of weeks where I knew, hey, I need to add this towards the back end of the program. And so just start where you're at and pursue regular, consistent action is key. Step 6 is commit yourself completely. Nobody is as bought into your goal, your dream, your vision as you are. And so if you're not bought into it, nobody is going to be as much as you. So commit to yourself and believe in yourself. And then step 7, continually just monitor your progress. In the military, we say supervise and refine the mission. Oftentimes, and especially in agriculture, oftentimes plan A, whether we're working cattle or combining, doesn't usually always happen that way that we planned it. So, have contingency plans B, C, and D, but just always supervise and refine the process. Our goals need to be adaptable and just a heavy amount of flexibility, I think, for us to accomplish those goals.
I love that. This has been so great, so valuable. I am glad we did this episode. Now I'm going to get that plan. Do you happen to have that written somewhere? Those 7 steps?
Yeah, I can send it to you. Yeah.
Would you be okay with that? Or if you have it on your
Yep.
website, I can link to it for people. I'll put something
It
in the
needs
show.
it needs to be on the website, Tracy. It is not, but yeah, I can send that to you for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Either way, if you're watching and you want this, come to the show page and it'll be on there
Yep.
any
Perfect.
which way. We'll figure it out. That's fantastic. That's exactly what I needed. This whole episode has been for me.
And,
I'm a
and
little
Tracy,
I'm a
no,
little self-centered in this episode, but it's just hitting because when if we're aiming towards something, it just gives you a focus, gives you a goal. And over the last couple of years, it's been very interesting for me. I'll throw myself under the bus. Maybe people can relate. There's different times in our lives where we go through different stuff. We feel different, we grow, we lose interest in stuff. And for me, not having that North Star to aim towards, I feel like I'm just, like you said, in the weeds, you spin. And life doesn't feel good like that for me when I'm in that state. It feels very frustrating. And the joie de vivre, like the excitement's not there for me because you're just stuck in the mud, right?
and I would say this too as we're thinking about resiliency and goal setting. And I've heard, I'm not gonna say this as well as he did, but I love John C. Maxwell and in the personal development space, and he talks about climbing. Climbing Mount Everest is a goal for a lot of people. A lot of people don't ever even come close to reaching that. It's just a small percentage of all climbers. But he says something really beautifully, and I'd have to go back and try to listen to it again, but something like, the summit of Mount Everest is wonderful. It's beautiful. It's like heaven, I'm sure. And he hasn't climbed Mount Everest, but he's interacted with those who have. And he said, though, on the opposite side, don't take for granted the progression and the process in which it took to get you there, because that's just as much or more special than, the process of the climb is just as special and as beautiful as actually the summit. And I think oftentimes we don't get so, I would encourage individuals to not get so tied up in the goal itself. I think oftentimes in professional sports or Olympians, they're shooting for one day, one moment. Hey, Major League Baseball, it's the World Series, whatever it might be, and hockey, the Stanley Cup. Don't have it, as a kid, you could have that as a goal to accomplish those things, but after you accomplish that thing, you're like, what do I do next? Your whole life was up to that point and you didn't enjoy the process, and the dopamine hit you actually get in the pursuit of something is higher than actually experiencing that thing. And so it's all about the process and not always about reaching and accomplishing that goal, but it's about the process itself as well.
Interesting. That I'm going to be sitting, I'm going to rewatch this because there is a lot of wisdom in here just to get you on track and like set those goals, your mission, right? I'm losing the words, but now I'm seeing why I'm disconnected from the grand vision because I haven't set that. And again, being careful of what to set because I've been there, done that. I've set that goal and then it's like, oh, okay. So what's that next goal? Speaking for me, you in the audience, what's that next goal for you that it's not necessarily that end, like John's saying? What's that next goal for me where it's going to move me along to being the next best version of me? Is that what you're
It's kind of
saying?
like a movie. Yeah, it's like a moving target. I think we need the dopamine hit of actually accomplishing some goals. It can't just
Yeah.
always be moving and you just never reach the thing.
Yeah.
There's not satisfaction in that, but always have it be moving in the future because we're not gonna just, yeah, you reach the Super Bowl in the NFL here. And and Tracy, I need more analogies for Canada. I hate to admit I'm not a hockey guy because it gets pretty hot here in Kansas, but I need some Canadian inspiration. But whatever the thing is, it's like you reach the goal and then it's almost like, man, that wasn't quite as awesome as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
There is a well-known thing, there's runner's high, and then there is oftentimes depression that hits after a marathon, and I've experienced it where it's you're building up for 4 months to this thing, and I'm sure I can't imagine what Olympic athletes
Oh
feel
my
training for
goodness.
4 years for one specific event, and some of them only perform for a couple minutes and that's it. But maybe they have a couple opportunities over the course of the Olympics, but they reach the thing and it's like, man, that wasn't quite as awesome as I thought it'd be. And then depression on the other side of that can hit. And so enjoy the process because it is just as much about that process as anything else.
I love that you said that because I've been there, done that, and had that. And I think that's part of my hesitation with setting new goals. You just got to find that right one. John, this is amazing. Thank you for coming on this episode and coaching Tracy through her stuff. I'm sure the audience has enjoyed this as well. I hope so, guys. Bear with me. I think sometimes it's nice to just, for me, anyways, speak it out loud and make it relatable for me. And if it helps others connect the dot, then hopefully it has done that. Is there anything else that you want to add about goals, resiliency, your framework? And then I'm going to ask you to share about your programs, how farmers can work with you if you have things on the go, and how farmers can connect with you. So, any last
Yeah.
words that you want to share, and then go from there?
Yeah, Tracy, I want to leave people with, I guess to me, it's inspiration and encouragement that we have every single thing inside of us already. God, and I'm a Christian, so this is the perspective and the lens in which I see things, but God has already given us every single thing that we need to accomplish, everything that we want in life, or the things that we're supposed to. We just have to always be working on ourselves, and sometimes it takes the outside perspective of a mentor or coach or guide, uh, whatever you want to say. But sometimes we can only get so far on our own, and it takes the outside wisdom or perspective of somebody else who's not in the day-to-day weeds that you're seeing, but a kind of a different, higher level view. But it's encouraging to me, for me, to know that I have everything already inside of me to accomplish the things that I want. I just have to have the right steps, the right community around me, whether it's mentor, coach, even a spouse or friend. It doesn't have to be a coach, but if you have all the right pieces and tools around you put in place and you are crystal clear about the vision and the purpose in which you're headed each and every day, you can accomplish anything that you want. And that's really reassuring to me, because I am far from a perfect individual, but knowing that, God is utilizing, if we can utilize the experiences that we're going through to better serve those around us each and every day, man, it paints a different picture to your world and your life.
Yeah, beautiful. Those were beautiful words to wrap up. Thank you. Programs and how farmers can connect with you. Do you have anything on the go right now for coaching programs?
Yeah, so really, really excited here in the short term. I'm starting and I've worked with men and women, but I'm starting a specific to men group cohort, or kind of a mentorship membership online program. Starts October 7th. So it's coming up here in what, week and a half or 2 weeks. So October 7th, I'm starting a men's brotherhood. It's called Elevated Brotherhood, and essentially a as iron sharpens iron experience. I want the perspectives. I can coach all day on something, but my knowledge is only so much. And what I love about this community that we're forming is that I might be able to offer something to somebody, but there might be somebody else in the group who has actually gone through something that they can offer their perspective to. So it's like we're all kind of helping each other as a community and a brotherhood. And so there'll be group coaching, kind of a group coaching format where I coach, but it's really the strength of the program is the strength and the knowledge and the wisdom, that kind of the collectiveness of what everybody else brings to the table. So that's October 7th. It's called Elevated Brotherhood. I can share that registration with you. You can put it in the show note, Tracy, but would love, and again, that's specific to men. I also work with women as well, men and women, one-to-one coaching. And at any point, if that is a service and a need for what individuals are going through. Quick plug too, just it's a couple months down the line, but we will be doing our third annual Ranch Fit Ruck at our ranch. Every year in December, we offer a 5K and a 10K ruck. I'm exploring and kind of toying with the idea of adding some team building and some other kind of personal development components to that this year, but to be continued on that, or to be determined. But that will be mid-December, December 21st. And so as that information becomes available, I can share it with you. But really excited about that opportunity, because it opens up our ranch operation to both farmers and ranchers and non-producers. And so they get to do something physically challenging to then help them with certain stresses and burdens that they're going through. So really cool, unique opportunity.
I love all of those: physical, mental, and something I think we're missing, connection. And having groups like that, connection, right? Men, women, everybody. I think we're so disconnected. So on top of the physical, to me, I'm going, wow, the physical, the mental, and then just being able to connect with like-minded people, right? And like you said, for that program, the brotherhood, that's so cool. I'll put links to all of that in the show notes. So
Perfect.
if you're interested, go to Farm Marketer, Impact Farming tab, find the episode, go to the bottom, and it'll all be there for you guys. And John, you are on which social media platforms again?
Yep. Folks can find me on Instagram at Coach John Sachse. That the last name can be hard to spell, so Tracy, I'll put that in the show notes. But at Coach John Sachse on Instagram, also on LinkedIn as well, just under my name, John, and then Facebook as well.
Excellent. Again, we'll put that all in there. Thank you for sharing that, John. Thank you for sharing your time and for the coaching that I received today. And I'm sure our audience got a lot out of this as well. I'm fired up. I'm going to end this and go do some goal setting. So, John,
Let's go
thank
run
you
through
so
a
much.
wall, Tracy.
I know. I'm missing that last piece. So I'm ready to just disconnect so I can go get it done. Thank you, John. I always love our conversations. So thank you for your time, your wisdom.
Thanks, Tracy. Appreciate you.
You are so very welcome. It's my pleasure. You guys in the audience, if you love this as much as I did, like it, share it, and get it out there so other farmers can hear this. This is game-changing stuff. Thanks, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.